Right, back with Asbo 43, and I'm just doing an oil change and giving it a new filter, but as I like to do, for a little extra time that it takes, I've removed the timing cover just to have a look at the oil pump drive worm and spindle, and the teeth on them are all okay, so they're not a worry. And also it might just be possible to see that the inlet cam timing is retarded by a tooth on this. The dots are just out of step by one tooth, although the one dot on the exhaust cam isn't quite where it should be directly under the tooth. It's almost between a tooth and an up and a down part, but they are actually out of step by one tooth, those timing marks. So the inlet cam is retarded, as I've said, and having the timing cover off also enables me to tip it up so that I'll have the oil filter chamber pointing upwards when I fit the new filter, pour oil into it to fill it, clean oil, and then I'll put the cap on, then I'll replace the timing cover, and then I'll get my oil can and I'll pump oil into the end of the crankshaft to get some clean oil straight into the big end and into the bottom of the crankcase, so that when the engine starts up, the oil will immediately get into the big end, and there'll be a bit in there for the flywheels to pick up and splash around to oil the piston and bore, etc. as well. So I'll come back to that when I've got my timing cover, or the timing cover, tipped up with the filter in place, and I'll also demonstrate priming the big end from the oil can. But always just for the extra few minutes that it takes. I mean, I had to loosen the exhaust off as well in the case of this one. Sometimes the timing cover will come past the exhaust, sometimes you've got to loosen or even remove it, but for the extra time it takes to make sure that your drivetrain to the oil pumps is good, I think it's worth it for the extra peace of mind, and we know that all that department is in good shape on this one. So next up, I'll be fitting a new oil filter, filling it with oil, and we'll pick up there. Right, here we are with the oil filter fitted into the oil filter chamber, and I've filled it with clean engine oil ready to sort of help it be primed. And next up, I'm going to fit the cap. I'll probably just put another quick dollop of oil in there because it is actually gradually going down as the filter soaks it up, and it will find its way out through the passageway that heads towards the big end oil feed as well. So in fact you can see it there running out of there. So the upside of that is it's flushed any dirty oil out of there as well. So I'll quickly top that up, then I'll refit the cap and the spring and the associated bits, and then I'll get the timing cover back onto the engine, and then we'll prime the big end via the worm nut seal with a squirty oil can, and then we'll be good to go. Right, we're nearly there with this oil change I'm doing on Asbo 43. I'm going to get the squirty oil can next, and I'm just going to pump some oil through the end feed via the worm nut on the end of the crank there. I'm feeling pressure now. We're pumping oil through the big end now already, and I'll give it about 20 or 30 pumps, and that'll put oil, nice clean oil, through the big end and leave some laying in the bottom of the crankcase, hopefully ready to get picked up and flung around by the flywheels when they spin, and get some oil on the piston and the bore and so on when the engine's first started. I've already got, as we've seen, the new oil filter fitted and primed. There we are, we've got a good bit of oil gone in there, and there's this rubber seal. Actually is not a bonded in one, it's the other type. It doesn't really matter, but it's obviously come out on the end of the oil can's nozzle, so I've just put it on the end of the quill bolt there, and I can screw that in now. And then once I've got that done up, I've got the tappet cover off. Oh, there goes my light. Hopefully we can still see enough of what I'm doing. I'll just screw this up and tighten it, and then I'll go back to the oil can, and I'm going to pump some oil into the tappet chest as well and let it go through into where the timing gears are, so that that compartment has got plenty of oil in it when the engine first spins up as well. And then last but not least, obviously, I'll fill the oil tank compartment of the engine. There we got a nice bit of oil in there going to the camshafts and idler gears and timing gears, worm nut and everything. And my last job will be put the tappet cover back on, and then I'm going to fill the engine oil obviously via the filler here, and once I've got it up to the mark I will be fastening this cap all the way down. I don't buy the transport and running positions, right? There are those who would say that it's meant to be like that on the first notch. It isn't. It's meant to be tightened down all the way. You wouldn't ride around with your petrol cap undone like that after all. You always put your filler cap down tightly. It's the same principle, same design, so I will be tightening the oil filler cap right down. And what I'll do is, once I've filled it and got some oil showing on a dipstick, I'll run the engine for a couple of minutes and then I'll stop it and recheck the level, top it up if required to the desired mark, and then we're well and truly done with a full oil and filter change on this engine, which will be ready to go for many more miles before having to worry about it again. And on top of that, it should be able to keep it all on the inside now as well, so that's a little bonus too.